Dr Shane Ritty.
Mr Chair, I move that the question be now put.
I'm not going to accept the closure, and I just want to make it clear to the House that to date the debate has been relevant and non-repetitious. The legislation is not trivial legislation, it's substantive, and there are some important amendments to it that are before the House, including one from the Minister. And I just want to underline or to repeat a previous ruling that I've got, and that is that when proper questions are asked of a Minister and they are not addressed or not answered by the Minister, that will tend to extend the debate. And I think we're in that situation now. The Honourable Phil Goff.
Thank you very much, Mr Chairman. Can I just start by thanking Jackie Dean for her comments and for the hearing that I got from the Select Committee to the change that I'm now bringing to the House by way of my supplementary order paper. She said that she thought the contribution was a thoughtful one. I think that all members on that committee did give it proper consideration, and that there was support or at least acknowledgement of the arguments from all sides of the House. Now, sir, as you know, the decisions that are made about bills are not made at the Select Committee, often they're made by the Minister. And I am urging the Minister quite genuinely to answer the questions that I've raised. The SOP that I'm bringing forward is an SOP that I'm bringing forward on behalf of the family members of those who were killed in service of their country. They have expressed genuine concern, heartfelt concern, about what this means to the information they might get about the circumstances in which their loved ones were killed. It is not a frivolous contribution that I'm making. I thank the New Zealand First Party, Dennis O'Rourke, and the Greens for their support, and the Labour Party, of course, but I don't see this as a partisan amendment. I see this as an amendment that is based actually on addressing the concern that the Defence Force raised, but in a way that best satisfies the requirements of transparency and accountability. And Minister, if I can take your attention just to look at what the regulatory impact statement from the department behind this bill actually said about the option that I'm promoting. The question, they go through all the options and they say, do these options balance transparency with the risk of inquiring into matters of state? And the answer that the department itself says about what I'm recommending is yes, it achieves a balance. It ensures that coroners investigate the death of members of the Defence Force, except where the Attorney-General considers there are risks to national security. So it can't be that concern about national security prevents the government from supporting my particular amendment. It says that a coronial this is the department again, a coronial investigation will provide independent scrutiny of the circumstances in which the death occurred, which is accessible to the public. Now, I'm asking you, Minister, why shouldn't we have independent scrutiny in a way that is accessible to the public, but most particularly to the families who have suffered the loss that they have? The next question from the regulatory impact statement, does the option duplicate investigations? The answer is no. In fact, the coroner always has relied on the New Zealand Defence Force to provide some of the factual material about what happened in the circumstances of the death. When it looks at the conclusion, first of all, it says, is it consistent with other legislation? Yes, Minister, my amendment is. It's consistent with the Visiting Forces Act 2004. In its conclusion, it sums up by saying, yes, this option does give us adequate opportunity for an independent inquiry. It does not contravene national security. It provides transparency. And it says, as an adjunct, coronial resources would of course be stretched if there was a major war, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the 21st century, where the circumstances of death are pretty much the same as those that occurred with the 10 losses of New Zealand lives in the Afghanistan conflict. So I'm asking you, Minister, This is the one place where you can be accountable to the House. This is the one place where I and other members of Parliament can get an explanation from you as to why you would not support this amendment, for which the bereaved families have shown real support, for which the former Chief Coroner has said this is more democratic. This is more consistent with what the countries that we would always compare ourselves to in this field, Australia and the United Kingdom and Canada. It is consistent with what they've done. What we're talking about is a coronial investigation that is the status quo. That right is there for the coroner to look into the deaths. And there has been no evidence that coroners have done other than work cooperatively with the New Zealand Defence Force. It's not too late for the government to change its mind. I'm not trying to embarrass the government. I'm simply saying this is the option that makes sense, and this is the option that those families want.
Mr. Chairman.
Dr. Nix.